What is your business?
Well, I like to say that we're reapers, harvesters of souls. We help people who have been adjudged to be ripe.
You're bounty hunters.
Literal man, cruel man. Yes, fine, bounty hunters. An ugly title, as if emolument with a point. Is the cobbler not paid for his shoes? It's an honest calling.
So, him on the roof, he was wanted?
Oh, Mr. Thorpe was very much wanted, judging by what they're paying for him.
What'd he do?
Oh, I don't know. Does it matter? Just as you said, madam, there are two kinds of people. In our business, they are dead or alive.
So you will take them alive?
I didn't say that.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Old Boys Podcast. A gentle place for gentlemen.
Yes, gentlemen are the main ingredient of what we call westerns.
Western.
A gentleman and his horse
Yes.
is all
the live long day.
to live. All the live
Yes.
long day.
How they sing and ride in a beautiful, harmonious perfection. This is the Old Boys Podcast, and if you're new, this is a movie podcast. We talk about movies normally. Sometimes we'll talk about music videos if it gets weird.
I feel like I scarred you for life with that.
No, it was fun. I liked it.
Okay, so we are a movie podcast, like Jared said. This week we watched a film. We don't really have anything to get into. We're just going to get right into it because I think there's a lot to talk about because clocking in at 132 minutes, this is the longest film directed by the Coen Brothers.
Is it?
Yes, we watched the new Coen Brothers film, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh, brother, where art thou? Again.
Fargo. Times
No,
3.
seriously, brother, where art thou? That's what it's called. That's the
No,
sequel.
seriously, brother.
No, seriously, no. Yeah, Ballad of Buster Scruggs just came out.
Let's wait. We gotta now make we gotta make other sequels to
To their films? To Coen Brother movies?
Blood Complicated. Oh shit! What's another
True
one?
Grits.
Oh yeah.
Far Stay instead of Fargo.
You see?
or S Fargo.
Fart
the
and
French
Bink.
version.
The Bigger Lebowski.
So a serious man. What could you do? Just a silly man?
Well, yeah, it's a
It's
silly man.
a silly boy.
The Bigger Lebowski.
They did Burn After Reading. I can't think of anything funny for that. Oh wait, no. Did they only produce that? I need to.
They did A Country for Dead Men.
Oh, the man who was there.
Yes. Okay, enough of that.
Barton Stink. All right.
I said Fart and Bink already. Thank you.
Fart and Bink. Oh, I missed it. That's way better than what I said. Grade A comedy here.
We could go on forever, but we're not
And
going
it's
to.
movie related. Before we get into this ballad, I have some serious update news, Dan, that I must share with you now. Give me one moment to get the story.
Is this bad or good?
No, you already know about it. I wish I just surprised you with this and I didn't just blow my fucking load immediately.
Oh.
So anyways, if you search the internets, and you guys also remember us doing a review of In Darkness.
Yes.
The film by Anthony Byrne and Natalie Dormer.
Yes.
When we were reviewing that film, we were like, what the hell? First, we're like, this movie's not very good. Secondly, we're like, why is Natalie Dormer invested in this? And she's writing
And
in
not
it.
Game of Thrones.
Well, she can do other things besides Game of Thrones. But I was just so confused that she had writing credits, co-wrote with the director, and funded it, because it says she executive produced it. So I was like, man, she put a lot of work into this. What's the deal? Apparently, these two were engaged to be married.
The sweet smell of love is in the
So
air.
it was their carnal union that had brought them together, some might say. But what tore them apart is this film.
So what
This
you're
film,
saying
apparently.
is they're no longer together.
No.
Interesting.
It was so bad.
So what you're saying is the creative differences between husband and soon-to-be wife, soon-to-be husband, soon-to-be wife, they were making a film together.
Yes.
And the soon-to-be wife was like, hey, bro, why don't you dial it back?
Well, I don't know which one of them. I mean, I'm sure they're both causing each other problems. They probably drove each other crazy. But during the writing room stages of actually making the film, they disagreed so much on the writing of the film that they would get into huge arguments and just storm off. And they couldn't agree on a bunch of things. And then they made the film anyways, and it's the worst writing I've seen in like a decade. And it's sad because everything else about the movie is nice. Like, the acting's good. I mean, so many other things about it are good, but apparently in this writing room stage, they couldn't agree on what the plot was. But it says in the article that they would tell each other, hey, this doesn't make sense. And then the other one would be like, well, don't worry about it. Like, it's a movie. Don't worry about it. Not everything has to make sense. And you're like, oh, that makes perfect sense to what happened in the film.
It does make a very large amount of sense because it totally shows. Mm-hmm. Like, it shows pretty hardcore.
Yes. So one was challenging the other, and the other was just like, I'm not going to fix it. Let's not think about this any longer. Let's just make the film, and that's what's going to be in it. And you're kind of like, man, but because like you need somebody there challenging you. That's how gooder things get made. You know, you have your talent,
but
I don't know.
I kind of want to know who is who in terms of
know
whose movie actually was made, or is that why it sucks? Because it's like both of them at the same time, and it's so conflicting and stupid.
Yeah, they could have come up with the idea together. I'm not sure which one was spearheading or which one was being harder in the writer's room. I'm sure if you asked either one, they'd say the other one. You know, it's probably one of those deals. But yeah, what a fascinating story to a very weird film.
I know, right?
And it makes perfect sense. I've never seen something in real life coming into the production of a film affect it so much. With it, like the finish of this film.
I don't think so either.
It makes perfect sense. You're like, oh, absolutely, that's what's going on.
I mean, aside from people dying,
bonkers.
That would be the only other thing, like having a fight come in between the production.
And literally, it's your lead actress and executive producer and your co-writer. It's too many people all doing the same thing. You got to have that separation of duties, Dan. Or it gets a little crazy.
You gotta have separation of duty.
I mean, that's what I like to do. I did a separation of duties a couple times before we got on this podcast.
So wait, separation from your body, or did you actually separate the duty whenever it was inside the bowl?
I took a big old shit.
So it's just separated from your body.
I didn't touch it with my hands.
See, I touched it with my hands.
That's called bowl play, and that's not allowed on the podcast. You leave bowl play at home, my friend.
Excuse me. This section of the Old Played Podcast was brought to you by the future of filmmaking. Stay tuned next summer for Joel and Ethan's new film, Raising Nevada.
It's Putting Down Nevada.
Excuse me, you're right. Putting Down Nevada.
Holy shit. So, the Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh, boy.
Wowie, wowie. Danny, please somehow give me your elevator pitch.
It is a omnibus film. It's an omnibus western is what it is. It's just like 6 different tales, very different ways of telling what can be in a western film, which I really appreciated. Like, even if you don't like westerns, you would love this movie, for one. And if you love westerns, you will love this movie. Like, it's ridiculous how it came together the way it did. Like, you can tell that Joel and Ethan Coen watched every western ever in order to make this film.
Yeah, even the old western musicals, man. I mean,
they're like, it's ridiculous.
Whatever you can think of.
It's ridiculous how well they did this.
One thing I'm a little surprised about is they didn't have a typical revenge story in this.
No, but I feel like they met a pretty good quota with Meal Ticket.
I mean, many people die, and almost all the endings are sad.
Yes, well,
but no revenge.
There's also a very like humorous tale. God, man, this film.
God.
Okay, so this is weird. right? So technically,
This is
there's 6 films in this. There's 6 little vignettes,
Yes.
and they managed to do this. And this is the first time I've ever been so impressed by an omnibus film.
Mm-hmm.
Joel and Ethan Coen have managed to make 6 endings in a row, not just tolerable, but superb.
Yeah.
So there's my first impressions. There are 6 endings in this film, and each one of them hit the fucking nail on the head.
I didn't dislike any one of these.
Yeah, exactly. I did. There were a couple of them, and we're going to get into them. We're going to get into them. There's a couple of them that are very, I don't want to say
sexy.
Well, yeah, they're sexy. All of them are sexy. There's one in particular that's very slow. It takes up the majority of the time in the film. But I'm going to talk about that one because it reminds me of a different Western that you probably haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I have some kind of superior identity to you.
Yes, you have the high ground.
Yes, I was going to say moral high ground, but that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, I don't think so. So I'm gleaming from this elevator pitch that's went on forever. That
I said my first impressions. I did like this film, yes.
I like this film a lot, too. There are one or two of the stories that I either liked less or sometimes even the opposite, where the more I thought about it, I was like, man, that's pretty fucked up. Like, I kind of liked it more.
Yeah, right?
What's nice about this film is that it makes you think about the stories, and it makes you kind of want to go back and watch individual ones again that you like or you want to know more about. You're like, oh, this is interesting.
Oh, man. The first 2 are just like, your typical Westerns, right? Like what you think of a spaghetti Western. But then as soon as you hit a certain one where you're like less about the cowboys and more about just like the other people who may have lived just along with the cowboys, it's like, what the fuck, man?
Oh, have we mentioned the cavalcade of stars in this fucking movie?
Yeah. No, we have not done that. Can we do that right now?
Yes. I'm trying to get them all. There's so many actors. I'm trying to look at the full cast list here.
Tim Blake Nelson as the titular Buster Scruggs.
That's right.
We got
James Franco is in this.
Franco.
I read one review where the guy just said James Franco being in the film was a disappointment. And I thought I missed something because I'm like, are you going to explain why you think that? And they never did. And I'm like, what the fuck? I thought he did a great job in this movie.
I think he did a good job too, and I don't like James Franco.
Yeah, you hate him.
So,
and I'm like, I don't understand. He was fine. Hey everybody, this is Jared from the future. And me and Dan did not know anything about James Franco or any of the allegations that I guess are on his head right now until after we recorded this. So we talk about him, and then I looked it up later and I was like, oh, that stuff seems bad. So I can see why people would be upset seeing him in the movie. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, bye!
Liam Neeson is in this. Tom Waits is in this. Tom Waits, guys, and oh my god, does he do... Tom Waits, I think, probably one of my favorite characters in this movie.
That's the prospector, right?
Yeah, the prospector.
God damn, really good. There are so many characters in this. A lot of unknown names I thought did good too. Well, probably not unknown to me, if that makes sense.
Oh, and then Zoe Kazan. Zoe Kazan is also very good. She's the titular girl who got rattled.
Oh, did you say the what's that Irish actor's name? I forget his name.
Oh, fuck, what is his name?
Who was with the Britishman at the end of the film?
Yeah, let me find him. The Englishman. Brendan Gleeson.
Brendan Gleeson? Yeah, he's fucking good too. All right, anyways, let's get into the film. This isn't list that actor. This is
but you said let's go over everybody who was in the film.
I know, and now we're gonna go through it in alphabetical order. You ready?
Okay, ready?
Amy Anderson.
B.
Betty Beakerson. Okay, anyways, the first film, or I'm calling them films. So in this anthology, the first story is the titular Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and how it opens up. Oh my god, I had the biggest child smile on my face.
I think
when
I
it
did
showed
too.
the book.
Yeah.
And it's playing that beautiful, like the music in this is so fucking good.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Which, by the way, this movie made me want to just immediately stop playing or stop watching, go play Red Dead. Like every segment, I'm like, God, I want to go play Red Dead.
I was thinking of Red Dead a lot when I watched
this.
The
only other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of Red Dead is, because I don't think I've said it, and you can cut this out, the music in Red Dead is like they watched all the fucking Western.
Oh yeah,
and
the music gets more Western as you go throughout.
I can tell,
the game.
yeah, it's fucking crazy,
and it builds and everything. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, and it's just this beautiful storybook, and each one has like a picture of what's to come, and then
it's a key scene with a key, or it's a key scene with the dialogue from that scene. It's not even, I wouldn't even call it key. It's just like an interesting scene from. It's just animated, like, or a painted version of that scene, basically.
This looks like it almost could be a real book. I'm wondering if this is like an actual book they're going to publish. Because I wanted to read all that shit. I didn't like stop and read any of the book.
I'm sure it's been written like the way it is. Because typically they actually put a lot of effort into it. So I'm sure it's been somewhat novelized.
Like I said, first story, it's got old Scruggs, Buster. And at first, we see Buster Scruggs, played by Tim Blake Nelson. And man, is he amazing. He has this Lone Ranger all white outfit with this huge white cowboy hat. All he needs is the black mask, and it's the fucking Lone Ranger.
Right.
And he's riding on this beautiful white horse through this canyon, and he's just singing this weird song about, I don't know, being a cowboy. And it's fantastic. And you're like,
he has like a very
this?
deep baritone voice too.
Yeah. And then he starts talking. He breaks the fourth wall and starts talking to the audience, and I'm like, I'm so happy right now. This is so good. And he's just like he's like a dopey country bumpkin, but is also insanely good at gunslinging. And I'm like, this is pretty. I love this character. It reminds me of what's that anime? Trigun. It kind of reminds me of Trigun. Yeah, because the main character in that is just like a bumbling idiot, but he's also really, really good at fighting and like avoiding bullets, and then he never hurts anybody, but Buster Scruggs definitely kills people.
No fucking problem. By the way, guys, this film is a lot more violent than the first 5 minutes let it out to be, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, there's a lot of violence in this first story too.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but like the first 5 minutes of the first story, or maybe the first 3 minutes. It's like you don't think you're gonna have that much, but then it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I guess it's part of his endearing nature, where it's like he's this dumbass dude that's he talking to the camera, and he's like, you're in on the joke.
Dope. It's almost like you're thinking him as like a silly cartoon, like, oh no, where the old Buster Scruggs boys getting up to?
Quick Draw McGraw. Like you think it's gonna be Quick Draw McGraw. And then blood flies everywhere, and you're like, "Oh!"
Fucking kills an entire saloon because they disrespected him. It was so weird because like he's writing, he goes into a saloon, they tell him he's not a real outlaw, and he's like, "I'm definitely an outlaw." And then the guy is like, "You got a pistol?" And then he shoots him right in the head. And then everyone else tries to fight him, and he kills all of them. And then the bartender's trying to grab a rifle or whatever, and he like shoots him from behind. That was so cool. And he kills everyone there, and he doesn't even get a drink or anything. He just leaves and goes right into another saloon. I was like, what?
Because he needs to be served like a true cowboy.
Yeah. So
and the issue. Okay, so how that works is at the first saloon, he's like, I'll have what they're having. He's like, well, we don't serve people
whiskey.
We only serve whiskey, and whiskey's illegal. He's like, well. Oh no!
That's what they said, and he goes, well, then what are they drinking? And he says,
like,
whiskey.
Yeah. But the one thing that I really want to talk about in this, so I'll lead the way with this one, because there's only one thing that I like really that stood out to me. Aside from the fact that it's a musical Western and it's like hokey and very, I don't know, it feels like a John Wayne Western more so than anything until it gets super spaghetti Western and like super bloody and gory. And then it just goes right back to those John Wayne type, like the feel good Westerns. But the part where he wants to play poker with that one guy, and then
he plays his hand, but like the guy's about to kill him, if I'm remembering correctly. Yes.
And he checked all of his guns and shit at the door because that was the establishment rules, and this guy doesn't abide by those rules. So he's a total jerk. And he's like, well, now I'm going to call you out for being an asshole for not, checking your guns. And then he's like, well, I'm going to kill you anyway. And then so Scruggs like kicks the table. And then the board flips up from the table, smacks the guy's pistol into his head. And then he shoots his own fucking head. And that was crazy.
That was amazing. But what makes it a cartoon? Because if he just did that once, it would be like, oh, that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes it like a silly, goofy thing is that he does it 3 times.
That's true. Yes.
And you're thinking like the surrealism is crazy. And I was just having so much fun, and it made the hyper-violence easier to digest. And so I love that marriage. You mentioned it earlier of this like silly old-timey Western, like a Gunsmoke, mixed with hyper-violent grit.
Like, imagine Once Upon a Time in the West, but they show, what's-his-face kill that kid. Uh-huh.
To see an entire film, I would love to see an entire film made like this, where it's a musical, it's goofy and silly, but the violence is extreme.
And don't get us wrong either. I mean, I'm just speaking for me. I don't know about Jared, but like, even though it was surreal and cartoony, a lot of it still made me go, what the fuck? Like, Jesus.
I loved it.
I liked it too, but I'm saying like, that's how intense it was, even though it was very cartoony.
Because after he kills a man, he kills that man.
He sings about killing him.
Yeah, and everyone loves it.
And they all dance around the bar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's wonderful.
It is out of control. And then the guy's brother challenges him to a duel, and he easily defeats him. He's like using a mirror to look behind him. He's like,
talking to the camera the whole time.
Yeah. He's talking to the camera about how the mirror has reversed his position and how like
he has to think extra hard about it. He's like, I better not do anything too fancy now.
Yeah. And then my favorite part is a man in all black, basically, the exact opposite looking as the hero shows up. And he's like, hey, I heard you're the one to beat around here. And he sings too. And he's like, oh, you have a lovely singing voice. And then they duel. And for some reason, I'm like, oh, Buster Scruggs is going to lose. Because I'm like, where else can this film go?
Well, exactly.
You know what I mean?
But how he loses is the best thing ever. Because he's like, do you need a count? And he's like, nope. And he's like, bam.
He shoots him immediately right in the head. Yeah. And then there's that cartoony, he can like look down and look at his hat, like even though he's been shot in the head.
Oh, is that the cartoon part?
Yeah, just that. Everything else is pretty realistic.
Not what happens afterwards. After he looks at his bullet wound in the middle of his forehead, he falls down, and then his soul comes out as an angel with wings. And
to go to Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. That's all realistic. Jesus Christ,
our Lord and Savior. But like he and the new outlaw are going off into the sunset together, but he's going up towards the sun, and the other outlaw's just going on the horizon, and they're both singing
a duet.
It's so good. It was so silly. It was a perfect way to end that.
It was really good, and the song was about like trading in your guns for like angel wings or something silly. I don't know, but. Goddamn was that song good. Goddamn was all of that so good. I could have watched an entire film like that, honestly.
Yeah.
I fucking loved it. It was so much fun.
So, Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Does it pass?
Yes.
Perfect.
It passes all the mustard and the mashed potatoes and the corn and the gravy.
You'll have to... Wait, I have it up here somewhere. Okay, so the next segment is called Near Algodones.
And this is the bank heist.
Franco portion.
Yep.
Oh my God. This is another one that's like super slow or super short. It does so well in the amount of time that is given. It's incredible.
This is the one where I almost wanted more out of the story, but reflecting on it, I definitely liked it. I enjoyed it.
Well, okay, so you have to understand, and we're gonna take this one a little bit backwards. I'm gonna explain to you why I like how short it is, and then we'll get to where it is. This whole premise was based off of the end punchline.
Which maybe I just didn't get.
James Franco is a bank heistman, I believe is what they're called.
A bank heistman.
Yes. And he is about to rob a bank. And the guy defends the bank very well.
This guy. The pan shot guy?
The pan
Pan shot!
Yeah. The pan shot guy.
He's a famous actor too, isn't he? I forget.
I think so. I don't know.
You don't have to look him up, but he's wonderful. he's going on and on back and forth with this bank teller, and he's like, have you ever been robbed before? And then the bank teller tells him all the different times he's been robbed. He even gives a hint.
Oh shit, yeah, it's Milton. It's Milton from Office Space.
Yeah, the stapler guy, I guess. He's telling him like, yeah, I blew this guy's legs off last time he tried to rob me, blah blah blah. And Franco takes out a gun and he's like, well, I'm robbing you right now, so give me all the money.
Right.
And he's like, oh, the big notes are down here. I got to go down here and get him. And then he activates these shotguns that are along the floor.
Which was ingenious. I love that.
It's pretty fucking great. And these 3 shotguns just explode and fire out through the wood. And he jumps on the counter to get away from him. And then he chases him. And does he take the money? Yeah, he does.
He takes the money and then like the guy disappears and you're like, where the fuck did he go? Mm-hmm. And then he thinks he could just run away. And then he reemerges from behind or in front of the bank this time because James Franco runs at the back and he's just covered in like gigantic cast iron skillets and shit.
Yes.
It's fucking hilarious looking. So basically James Franco can't shoot him because he keeps hitting the pans off of his body.
He has pan fry armor,
yes.
And every time Franco would shoot at him, he would yell, pan shot! And it was special. I loved it. And then when they catch Franco, he finally wakes up from being knocked out, and he's on a horse with a noose around his neck, attached to a tree. And the lawmen are like, you have any last words? He's like, what? He's like, we did a trial of your peers, and they all decided you were guilty, and we're going to hang you. He's like, do you have anything to say? He's like, you know that bank teller guy? That's pretty unfair how he fought. And they're like, is that it? He's like, yeah, that's it. It's pretty unfair what he did. And they're like, okay, we're going to hang you. And then Indians attack. Which
Not
is like
Indians.
Perfect.
Comanche come in. And yeah, of course.
Native
Oh my
Americans.
God. So they massacre this entire people who are like carrying out the sentence. But they leave Franco just hanging on the horse. But there's a scene where the chief comes up to him and then like just kind of barely spooks the horse, and the horse moves, and the Franco's like, I see what you did there. And then
yes,
Franco, like it cuts to now Franco's been sitting on the horse for a while, and the horse is moving forward inch by inch, trying to find more food that is coming out of the ground.
Grass, yeah. And it's just like slowly making him come off the horse.
And then he has to like lean back into the noose, and it looks so dumb. I actually thought it was endearing that the Comanche chief, how he like almost hung James Franco and then just ran away because he thought it was a joke. I liked that a lot. Like that was clever.
It looked like they actually had Native Americans in the role.
Oh yeah, you're right.
A step up from a lot of other films I've seen.
Yeah.
Including I watched they weren't Native Americans, but I recently watched The King and I, the original one.
That's terrible.
Yeah, was it Yul Brynner plays
an Asian dude,
the king of Thailand. I think it's Burma, the king of Burma, and he is white as shit. And
well, there's another one too.
The movie even tries to tackle racism and slavery while everyone is in blackface. It's pretty amazing.
Okay, so there's another film that stars was it Tony Randall? Yeah, so Tony Randall, super white dude, and the name of the film is the Seven Faces of Dr. Lao, and he plays all of Dr. Lao, and Dr. Lao has a bunch of different Chinese caricatures that he's playing, and it's really like, ugh. But
it was a different time.
It was a different time, and then I think I'm pretty damn sure that John Wayne played a Comanche in one of his films.
Oh, he did?
There's been a lot of white actors no, it was somebody else. It was somebody played a Comanche in John Wayne's film, and it was not a Comanche.
They would get a lot of Spanish actors to play
racist. Okay, so the end of this film, or this vignette, near Aldones, or however I said it before, the end of this is basically James Franco gets found by a herder, essentially. Herder takes him into town. They're like, oh, you're wanted. So he goes back onto the official gallows this time. And then there's a guy right next to him sobbing, and James Franco turns to him and says, was this your first time?
Yeah, that was so funny.
The whole premise of this film, I think, came out of that stupid punchline. Because
that punchline.
Yeah, that's the punchline I'm talking about. Because why else would you have that punchline in there other than, wouldn't it be funny if, and well, how do we make a movie about this?
Well, my thing was the very end with, he sees the woman, he's like, what a beautiful lady, and then just gets killed. Like, I didn't get that
I
part.
didn't get that either, but then again...
It was interesting. It was weird. It's like, what a terrible time to fall in love, I think is what I got from that. Like, he met the woman of his dreams, and now he's going to get fucking killed.
I guess.
He does. He dies. Also, you're a little wrong. So, the man who saves him the first time from the hanging tree, he tells him he's hurting the cattle. He's actually stealing it.
Oh.
So, when the police come, that's why that other guy runs away, and they catch him for cattle herding or stealing the cattle. So he gets caught for something completely different, and then they bring him to the sheriff. The sheriff's like, you stole those cattle? Hang him. And he's like,
see,
fuck.
I missed that part because I watched the first half of, or the first two with my father-in-law, and he gets very loud whenever he watches films.
So the irony is, it's like he got away off of this charge, and then some arbitrary thing where he was completely innocent. He got caught anyways, and now he's gonna get hung. So it's almost like fate. He can't escape fate. Right. It's pretty neat. I don't know. I liked it. Anyways.
Well, then take that to your argument of what a beautiful woman. It's like, it's almost like fate. He can't escape it. So yeah, this is the only time in the world that he's going to see what he needs to see.
And we are every woman, if you think about it that way, Dan.
We are every woman.
It's all in Pantene Pro V for men.
This one, I believe, this next one is called Meal Ticket. And this one it's a tie for me. I like this one the most, and I like the last one the most.
Really?
Yeah.
Meal Ticket was... I liked it.
Here's why I like it.
Go ahead.
The entire vignette is made up of the same monologue, but all of the important things are told without dialogue. So the entire story is told without dialogue, but there's only one speaking part. It's the same monologue over and over and over again. But I also like this because Liam Neeson now has played one of the most fucked up characters I've ever seen in cinema.
Yeah, he's pretty scary. Have you talked about what's actually going on in the story?
Yet. Why don't you do that for me?
You son of a bitch.
Why is it that Liam Neeson is fucked up, Jared?
Because he didn't file his tax returns on time.
Oh, so he has no meal ticket to get, food.
That's right.
Okay, I get
yep.
Okay, gotcha.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was delinquent.
Yeah.
No, so so there's two men, Liam Neeson. I don't remember the other actor's name. He's great though. They are in a traveling act together. They go around from town to town and they do the act and they collect money. And basically Liam Neeson is the coachman and he takes care of this man who has no arms and no legs. He's the talent.
Yes.
And sometimes Liam Neeson does like, yes, the thespians. Oh, and he does like background stuff for him. Like sometimes if he needs lightning, he'll do like a lightning effect. Yeah, whatever. And basically the act is curtains open up. The man with no arms and no legs is sitting there in makeup, and he just starts reciting famous poetry and literature and speeches. He even recites like Abe Lincoln's speech.
The Gettysburg Address.
Yeah, he just does them all just back to back to back. Just boom, 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 boom. And then once they're done, they ask for money, and then Neeson goes around and collects money from people. And they keep doing this, and they're getting some good money. It's okay. And then the more shows they do, the less of an audience there is. So they start losing their audience. They're getting their act isn't good. And I'm thinking like, oh, are they going to like work on their act together and like figure out something new? Or I'm like, is the guy with no arms and no legs going to like actually say something meaningful or tell an interesting story that's original? But Neeson is having none of that.
Nope.
You would say. He treats his partner like basically like a tool.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't see him as a person.
Well,
he feeds him.
Technically, he's not a whole person.
Oh, brutal. Disrespectful. I want to know if he wipes his little butt. Do you think he's got to wipe his little booty?
You think Liam Neeson wipes his butt for him? I don't think so.
Yeah. He's got to dress him in shit. I mean, come on. Oh, not in shit, but you know. So There's these scenes, these long scenes after they would do the speeches or they do the act.
Of him feeding.
Yeah. In silence. And they never speak. And I'm like, are they going to do this entire film with neither of these two characters ever saying a word?
I loved that.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was pretty great. And you're right. The contrast is fantastic. And it's just like, it seems like they both hate each other. And you definitely don't see them as partners at all.
To me, it seemed like how I read the actor's face. No, Liam Neeson is indifferent. But the other one is looking for companionship. Like, there's a sense of yearning in his face.
Oh, yeah. He's so lost.
So it's like, you can tell that he wants to be talked to, and Liam Neeson just never gives him the time of day, which is just like, that's why I'm saying it's so disgusting of his character. Just never talk to him, like, not treat him like a person, and then in the end, spoiler alert, kills the man because he finds a better meal ticket, so to speak.
Yeah, better act. Which isn't even a better act. The irony is pretty great.
Yes.
So there's a lovely little scene where Liam Neeson is drunk. They've done a performance, and they're hanging out. And he starts singing. There's a lot of just spontaneous singing in this. This movie is almost a musical. There's so many songs.
And what he's singing about, oh my God. Isn't it like, oh shit, what was it? It was, I didn't write it down because
it's killing someone, I think. Burying someone.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Oh my God.
And then at the end, you think they're finally going to have a meaningful conversation, and he's like, let's go to a brothel. And then they go. Why he has to bring him, I don't know. He puts him on the other side of the room while he has sex with this lady.
He's not out in the cold.
I guess.
So he doesn't, die.
But he could have left him in the waiting room of the fuck house. Not like in the fucking... it was crazy. And he turns him around so he can't see them having sex. Of course, he's got 2 ears, which he cannot cover.
Exactly.
And so he's got to hear the whole thing. Basically, at the end, Neeson, the Neesonator, he sees another act of a chicken that rings these different bells depending on...
Like, you give it an arithmetic question, like 10 minus 11, and the chicken will ring the one bell.
Yes. But what's really going on is someone is signaling the chicken to just ring the bells.
Yeah.
So Neeson, like an idiot, buys the chicken thinking it's a super smart chicken, and he's going to do this act. And it's going to completely fail because he doesn't know how to get the chicken to do what he wants to do, I don't think. So there's that scene where he has the feed bag and he cuts it open and he like pours it out on the ground for the chicken. It was almost like how he treats his friend with no arms and no legs. Yeah. And then it's just the performer and the chicken are both just in the back together. And he's just kind of like looking up at it like, Jesus Christ, you're the one who's replacing me? And then there's that crazy scene of like they drive up to the bridge and then he throws that rock over like, yeah, this will be a good spot to throw my friend over. And they don't even show him do it. It just cuts away and that's the end. And you're like, motherfucker. That is
and
brutal.
then like if you read because like after you see the vignette, the page it goes to the last page and then you can read like what was happening in the last page, and that's exactly how it was filmed. It's like, and the driver never looked back. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's fucking crazy. So super sad.
Super sad.
I mean, a lot of these are pretty fucking sad. So All Gold Canyon is the next one. Probably the happiest, maybe the happiest of all of them.
Also, I feel like the most informational because I think that was like a very accurate portrayal of how prospecting works. You know what I mean? Like he kind of like, he's like, all right, I found gold here. I'm going to go a little bit. I found a little bit more gold here. I found the most gold here. I'm going to put a stake here. And then I'm going to keep going to see where it wanes off. And I'm going to put a stake there.
Yeah.
I think that's how it worked. And I'm like, oh man, I've never seen that before. That's pretty cool.
It was pretty neat.
And like, that's what you watch for the first 10 minutes is just him doing this. And you kind of have to be engaged in that. And I think they did a really good job, especially because it's Tom Waits.
And what does he call it?
Oh, Mr. Pocket.
He calls the gold reserve Mr. Pocket. And he's like, I'm coming for you, Mr. Pocket.
I'm old.
I'm going to find you.
I'm old, Mr. Pocket, but you're older. You're older, Mr. Pocket. Yeah.
I'm all better now, and I'd like to come inside of that, Mr. Pocket.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And what I liked, I don't
know
what significance. What's
now
up?
that you've said that in that context.
Oh, no.
What if Wilford Brimley characters from The Thing was like an anti-STD slogan. I'm all better now and I want to come back inside.
Ew. What if there was a Western version of the thing?
Oh, shit.
So that, like, old-timey people had to deal with a monster that could replicate you.
Dude, that'd be sick.
And all it wanted to do was survive and just replicate.
Well, I mean, that one franchise had the Western one that was not that bad, the Tremors.
Oh, yeah, Tremors. Yeah,
I did
fun.
enjoy the
Was
Tremors.
that a Western, though?
It was set in the Old West.
Oh, was that like
the,
a newer
the
Tremors?
third one, yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I saw that one.
I liked it.
There's so many fucking Tremors now.
I know, right?
So the intro to this is fascinating. It feels like this film has a lot of stuff you could read into, but I don't know if you even... It's like, is there something here? I'm not sure. Because in the beginning, it shows a deer, it shows the owl, and like the squirrels, and like all the nature and wildlife just living there. And then as soon as the prospector starts singing, they all run away. Mm-hmm. It's like he's scared off nature, and he's taken over this area, and he's destroyed it by prospecting, right? And then when he's done and he leaves, all of those creatures start to slowly sneak back in.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they were trying to say something there about like how he's just kind of like ripped this place apart to get the gold and like stolen the egg and everything else. And he's like, okay, now I'm gone. And he's like, all right, we're back to our old business of,
I'm not exactly sure
I don't
either.
know. It's interesting. It was so fun hanging out with this guy and his little donkey and him trying to find this gold. And you're like, you want him to find it so bad. And he's working on it and working on it. And when he finally finds the gold, there's this great shot of him, like, he's in this big hole. And when he was digging the hole, I looked at my girlfriend. I'm like, oh, he's digging his own grave.
Yep.
He's definitely going to die right here. He's going to fall in this hole and be killed. And there's a man who's been watching him this whole time, apparently. And he has a gun, and he's above him. And he's like, fuck. And he tries to turn around to say something, and then the guy shoots him in the back, and he falls down. And there's a wonderful scene of, like...
Oh, this was the best part of this.
The thief, he sits there and rolls up a cigarette and smokes a little bit of it.
And you're like, what the fuck is happening? But it has the best
payoff. Because he's waiting to make sure he's dead.
Yeah, it has the best payoff ever.
Why he couldn't just shoot him again, I don't know.
Yeah,
but I don't know. You don't want to waste a bullet.
Yeah.
So then he jumps down there thinking he's finally dead, and they have a brawl, and it was fucking rad. It was really cool. And the dude like puts his hand up to block the bullet, and he goes right through his hand and through his forehead. I was like, fuck yeah.
And then Tom Waits
awesome.
like starts screaming at the top of his lungs like, I beat you. It went clean through me. And like it was so fun to listen to him just like talk to himself.
Yeah. He's like, it didn't hit nothing important.
Yeah.
It didn't hit nothing important. I fucking loved it. Because he's got this bloody wound, and then he spends days and days, who knows how long,
nursing himself
recovering.
Back to health,
Yeah. And he leaves the corpse in that hole. He mines the ore and leaves that dude in there. And so when he's going off, you kind of think, oh, this is like a happy ending. I think he did it. But he is still slightly bleeding. And you're kind of unsure, like, is he going to die on his way back?
Right.
You don't know. But for the most part, this is probably the happiest ending.
Yeah, for sure.
Of the film. It's weird. Like, he gets the gold, defeats that villain, and is off on his merry way. It was interesting. I don't know. I really liked it.
What this made me want to do was find a prospector in Red Dead and kill him.
Oh, you can.
Can I?
You definitely can. Yes.
Oh.
It's happened to me multiple times. Once I found a guy. This isn't spoilers. This is like just random events that can happen. I found a dude, and he's like, hey, come hang out with me. And I was talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I'm looking for gold. I hope I find some. And he's like, oh, I found a nugget. I pulled out my gun, and I'm like, I'm robbing you now. he's like, you son of a bitch. And then he tried to fight me. What I like to do, because I'm trying to be a good guy for the most part, I will rob everyone, though. I'll tie people up.
Oh.
So you don't lose honor if you tie them up. And as long as you don't rob them specifically, if you take everything else around them, I think I had to rob him to get the gold off of him. But yeah, you don't lose a lot of honor if you just tie them up.
Gotcha.
So like if you go into someone's house, they're like, what are you doing here? I just tie them up immediately and then just go through and rob and just take everything from their house. It's pretty
that's hilarious.
great. Pretty great Graham. Great Graham? Pretty great Graham. Yeah, that's the right word. I think I used the right word. Red Dead. Just always be robbing, even when you're a good guy. What's weird in that game is like...
robbing.
It's an ABR? ABR, man.
Yeah.
Always be robbing.
So the next one is called The Gal Who Got Rattled.
With the dragon tattoo?
Yes, The Gal Who Got Rattled. The dragon tattoo.
So, Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit about
This one
that?
is the one that I took the most notes on for some reason. Because it's the
It's very
longest.
long.
Yeah, it's so fucking long. It's the slowest one of all of them. And this is the one that reminds me of a modern Western called Meek's Cutoff. I recommend you watch it. That film is super slow, but it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And it has a very strong female lead. But Meek's Cutoff is about, the IMDb says, settlers traveling through the Oregon desert in 1845 find themselves stranded in harsh conditions. And basically, they save a Native American kid, and the female of the group kind of protects them from the guy who's guiding them. And it's slow. It's a very slow burn. It's very good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I recommend watching it.
I could watch an entire series of just this story.
Oh yeah, this would be a good one to like serialize for sure. So basically, the premise behind this one is this guy has a terrible way of understanding how the world works, and he thinks he's successful, and just because you think you're successful doesn't mean you are. And he's failed multiple times, and he's dragging his sister to Oregon for this business proposition. Say, hey, you can give me some of your business, and I'll let you marry my sister, but.
Yeah, to fucking sell his sister off in a business proposition. That's the kind of shit that was going on back then.
So they go, and along the way, the brother who is going to sell his sister dies. So this woman is basically stranded, and she doesn't know what she's going to do when she gets to Oregon. And the worst part about it is there's this boy there who's been helping them, and he said that your brother promised me $400 to do this, and now that he's dead, I don't know where my money is.
Yeah, that ranch hand or whatever.
Yeah, essentially. And she's like seeking help from
$400, which is a fortune in fucking Western times.
Yeah. So the guy who's guiding them, she's trying to help him constantly. And then there's a dog that plays a part in the story.
President Yappers or something.
President Pierce.
President Pierce is the name of the little yapper dog.
But the first thing that I took a note about is they're all walking, and this woman has been stopped multiple times by everybody's like, hey, I hate to bother you, but your dog is being a nuisance by barking.
Yeah.
I could take care of it for you. And
because they all think it's her dog.
Yeah. And she's like, it's not my dog, so I guess you can. And this guy's about to kill a dog just because it's barking. And I thought to myself, man, have I ever wanted to do that?
You know what I love? So like it's everyone's preconceived notion is that, oh, there's a small dog here. It must be this lady's dog.
I did like that too.
And in fact, it is not the lady's dog. And I liked that a lot. It's her dumb brother who's just dragging her down in every way, and like it makes her a nervous wreck. How she kind of explains to William, I believe, is the wagon herder, along with Arthur, which I loved, Arthur Morgan. Let's all pretend.
Right. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, oh wow, I wonder if it is.
Yeah. And I liked the dynamic between Arthur and Will, because William would be like, hey, I'm gonna go do this. Is that okay? And then Arthur just doesn't even use words. Yep. He doesn't care. I don't know if he doesn't care or if he's just like, this is non-information for me.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, along the way, William falls in love with this woman whose brother has died. And before she can get to Oregon, he proposes to her. And she kind of starts to accept it after a while. But there's this wonderful, and you got to get the dialogue for this. There's this wonderful dialogue between... There's this wonder dialogue between Billy Knapp and Miss...
Billy Knapp here, and I'm here to sell you
Lundabaugh,
the Billy Zapper.
Oh, God. The Billy Zipper. Anyway, he says, and it's like my life philosophy too. It's like, I love this so much. Uncertainty is appropriate for matters in this world. Yeah. Certainty is the easy way out. I'm like, oh, that is, everybody needs to hear that. Everyone.
How do you trust somebody who's completely certain on a thing and has no doubt?
I'll tell you, I grew up with a bunch of people like that, and it drives me fucking insane. But probably the best part about this film, whenever it actually starts to not be slow anymore, not saying that it's not bad during the slow parts, because like I said, that one system of dialogue there is just, it's so awesome. But I forgot her first name, but Zoe Kazan, the woman, Mrs. Linda Longaba or whatever his name is.
Longabo. I'll look it up.
She goes off into the wilderness because she hears President Pierce barking, because they didn't kill President Pierce, they just let him go away because Billy Knapp, he couldn't bring himself to kill a dog, right? So he just ran away.
Alice
Longabao. Anyway, she goes off, and then she has the dog in her hand on her horse, and the dog is barking at little prairie dogs. And Arthur comes up to her, and he's like, oh shit, because he knows that there's Comanche about. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, we gotta go. And then she just won't stop laughing. And then the Comanche come on the horizon, and he tries to, like, wave him down with the peace sign. And then they're like, no.
They're not having none of that.
So Arthur's like, all right, we got to prepare for the worst. So what I want you to do is hold this pistol. I'm going to try to hold them off. They don't know the terrain very well because there's prairie dog holes everywhere. Otherwise, they wouldn't be charging us. So they're getting ready for a charge. So we're going to try to fight them off. If things go south, what I want you to do is, there's 2 bullets in this gun. If I, for some reason, can't make it through, I want you to kill me and then kill yourself. Or if I can make it through, we're basically just get ready to die, because I'm going to kill you and I'm going to kill myself.
They're not for the Indians. They're for you to shoot yourself.
Yeah. Because what his argument is like, whatever they're going to do is a lot worse, so you might as well just take it off now. You know what I mean?
And when you think about it, the uncertainty and certainty of this is actually what killed her, because she was certain that they had lost. And if she would have been more uncertain, so much sense. Yeah, you're right. She would have not have taken her own life.
Moral of the story, guys, it's right there. Right there.
How amazing is that?
It's so good. Anyway, one of the best parts about this... I mean,
spoiler alert.
One of the best parts about this is all the Comanche are charging, and they all fall over whenever they hit the prairie dog holes, and they die immediately, because riding full speed on a horse and falling off, you can break your neck.
You can break your neck.
And every single time he sees them trip in a dog hole, he's like, dog hole!
Dog hole!
He does it so many times, it's so funny. Dog hole!
Oh, I love it.
And then, oh my god, the scene where he thinks that he fended them all off because he killed the chief. You remember that stealth move where you see the guy riding on the horse?
This little scene here,
I had to rewind it 3 times. I'm like, this is incredible.
This is what I love in, like, action movies. It made me think of almost like why I love anime or like these like tit for tats, thinking of the unexpected. When a writer can write a scene, like, how do we just take Native Americans and cowboys fighting each other? How do we make that more interesting instead of just, I pull out a gun and I shoot you, And I love the creative ways they can think of how 2 people can fight. I enjoy that. And like outsmarting your opponent. I really enjoy that. So what this Native American does is he is riding on the side of his horse like he's in Metal Gear Solid 5. And he's hiding himself, so it just looks like the horse is passing by. And Arthur thinks that he has won, so he's let his guard down. And he's going up to the horse to grab it, because he's like, oh, free horse. And the fucking guy comes up, and he's got a tomahawk, and he goes, bam, and like smacks him on the head. And then he falls down to the ground. And then the dude jumps over the horse, lands on the ground. He goes over to skin him. And as he's about to skin him, he was pretending to be dead. And he pulls the gun and puts it right to his head and shoots him while he's on the ground. I'm like,
but that horse move, man, so that cool. Horse move blew my mind. Yeah.
That was
because it was real too. Like he was actually hiding behind
He was really hidden. Yeah. Gangster is the word I would use.
Absolutely. But then, so Arthur, like, actually finally, he wins and he comes back to see Mrs. Longabao, and she has ended her life. And then now it's Arthur's duty to go back and tell William.
And what's sad is that, like, when you look at the very first, like they'll do a little quote in the beginning of the story that's taken out of context. Yeah. The quote at the beginning of the story was the last sentence of this story, and it was, Arthur didn't know what to say to William when he came back.
So you don't know what it is, the entire context, and then it's one of the most sad things ever. It was so good. And
it's how is he going to tell the woman that he's fallen in love with, that he's going to spend the rest of his life with?
That she's dead, yeah.
That she's dead. And that's how they end the story, is both writers coming up to each other, and Arthur's about to tell him what happened. and he's speechless. And I was like, God damn, that's sad.
But then again, he's always speechless, you know? So it's like...
Arthur? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he almost never talks.
Oh, man.
He was talking during that fight. That was the only time he came alive, really. Oh, so crazy.
So the last segment is called Mortal Remains, and this is the one that's also like tied for my favorite one. Mm-hmm. Just because it's this one where Meal Ticket was no dialogue, this is only dialogue.
Yes, this was very Quentin Tarantino for me.
Yeah, but it was like well written Quentin Tarantino, I think.
I knew you're gonna do some shit like that. I knew it. I loved it, of course.
It was
it's just fantastic.
Yes. So, God, my first note is keep your hand and talk. Keep your hand and talk, because I think it was that one guy. Okay, so there's 5 characters here, 6 if you count the coachman. But you have the Englishman, you have the Irishman, you have the trapper, you have the proper lady. And you have the Frenchman.
The Christian and the French card player.
The French card player. And it starts off with the Englishman singing a song, right? Mm-hmm. And the song is like about a woman who goes missing. Yeah. And it's like freaking the Christian lady out.
Yeah. She is... the actress who played that well-to-do woman... Mm-hmm. was great because her reactions to everything were just so funny. It's just like, well, I never. I fucking loved it. And like when the trapper started talking, she was just
oh my God.
His breath was like affecting her.
So the Englishman like basically asked the trapper, like, so have you ever been to where we're going? He's like, no, I never go to the city really. Mm-hmm. And then you think that's like he's just gonna be that's it. But then the trapper just like, you know, the floodgates have gone and the trapper just won't shut up now.
Yeah,
and he talks so fast.
He's very obnoxious.
And keep your hand and talk. Funny. Keep your hand and talk is like one of those things that he was saying. I forgot what it was, but like he says so many insane things. Like he fell in love with an Indian woman, and the only reason why he fell in love with her is because that's all he had to like have sex with in the moment. And he said
he's like, I thought we loved each other, but also then again we couldn't understand a word we each said to each other.
And he said that she was a stout woman of the hunk Papa Sioux. So he's talking about how like she was from a very specific tribe. Oh my God, he was like the most crass, disgusting person ever.
Yeah, he's like, and we argued and quarreled for a time, and then she left, and like that was the end of his story. He's like, then she left.
But then he also has that like bout of philosophy where he's like, people are like ferrets.
They're all the same.
And then they start all arguing about, well, no, there's 2 different types, and each person, aside from him, says that everybody has their own idea of 2 different types.
And the Christian lady was like, there's Christians and non-Christians. Or whatever. Or no, she said there's the upright.
And the sinners.
And then there's...
the sinners.
I like that. And they all started going in their own philosophies about like what they think it means to be a person, I guess. And it was pretty
And then the French card player has like a really cool conversation about like the different types of love.
Yes. And how this French card player is such an asshole to this old lady, because the old lady's like, oh, my husband is waiting for me at the fort. Yeah. They're going to Fort Morgan or something. And she's like, I've been away from him for 3 years, and I've been living with my my relatives or whatever, like my sons and his wife or something. And then the French card player's like, they probably don't want you to be there.
Yeah.
And your husband probably doesn't love you anymore.
Well, and while like he was being an asshole, like he also was bringing up really relevant points.
Yeah. Oh man, it was so good. And then he goes on that spiel about how you can't play someone else's cards because you don't know. You can't ever know someone 100%. Yeah. That was his argument. Is that so like good. You may love your husband, but your husband's version of what love is might be completely different than how you perceive it to be. Like the love of a crowd is different than the love of your son or your daughter or whatever. And it was pretty fascinating because he talks about how he was gambling and how his friend was like, hey, I want you to play these cards and bet for me while I go like to the restroom or something. I don't know. And he's like, I cannot do that for you because I don't know how you would play the cards. Because the guy was like, just play them how I would play them. And he's like, but I could truly never know how you would play these cards, so I cannot play them. And I love poker and poker metaphors.
Yes.
So you got me, movie.
You did get me.
I mean, the only other thing we can cover is the big reveal about the Englishman and the Irishman, and they sing another song.
It was
which
like the Irishman was singing a song about like this woman disemboweling him or something.
Yeah,
it's like Jesus Christ.
Oh, and they were burying her, and the only way to cover up the scent of death was with roses.
Yeah,
they're like three men on each side of the coffin. As they take him to the grave, each one has 6 bed of roses to cover up the smell he made or something. And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
But like,
So
apparently
good.
they are like, were they like going to hell or something?
Yes.
Okay, so it was the afterlife. That's what I thought.
I immediately started to figure out that, because like the wild look on the Englishman, I'm like, this guy is like the Grim Reaper or something. Yeah. Something's going on. Then he literally said he was the Grim Reaper. He's like, oh, we're reapers of souls of sorts. And they're like, you mean bounty hunters? Like they're still they're not understanding it. Because at one point the woman, she's very upset, and they're like, stop the carriage. And they try to tell the driver to stop.
Oh, he won't stop.
And he won't stop. That's when I thought, like, okay, this is supernatural.
Yeah, that's
something is going on.
I didn't quite figure it out, but I mean, that's whenever I was figuring it out too.
Just there's such a powerful scene of the Englishman is like
he's the distraction.
Yeah. While the other guy wallops them.
Yeah, you're gonna get that.
They're
clip.
bounty hunters.
It's so good.
They're so easily taken when they're distracted, people are. So, I'm the distractor with a little story, little conversation, a song, a sparkle. And Clarence does the thumping while their attention is on me. He's very good, this one. You should see him. No, he's good. I can't thump. Mr. Thorpe up there, a typical case. I told him the story of the midnight caller. Someone is outside, knocking. No, don't open it, Mother. What living thing could be out in such a storm? You know the story, but people can't get enough of them, like little children. Because, well, they connect the stories to themselves, I suppose. And we all love hearing about ourselves, so long as the people in the stories are us, but not us. Not us in the end, especially. The midnight caller gets him, never me. I'll live forever.
And how he tells them like how much he enjoys seeing the look on people's faces when they finally realize where they're going. And what's happened?
So it's like a sadistic
they're all dead.
Grim Reaper. It's so good.
Yeah. And they don't realize that they're dead. And I'm just like, this is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And then the trapper guy's like, do they ever realize? It's like, do they ever? Because they also have another passenger that's like a dead body or something, like on the hood.
Yeah, up at the top.
Anyways, they get to that hotel. Now, was that hotel their final Fort Bragg or whatever? Or was that just like a rest stop?
I would assume it was their final thing because like they were ascending up into, this weird light.
And I love how apprehensive they were of getting it.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to leave. They were so freaked out because they all kind of realized, like, I think we're dead.
Yeah.
But, it was a pretty cool story. I really liked it. Dialogue was solid. One little thing I wanted to bring up is in the story about the Oregon Trail, randomly, there's just a little boy. He's not a main character. He's just walking backwards. And his mom's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm walking backwards. He's like, why are you walking backwards? He's like, I'm going to walk backwards all the way to Oregon. And she's like, don't do that. He's like, why not? And then the dad runs up and starts hitting him with a switch. He's like, don't do that.
I forgot about that part.
It's just a random thing they wrote into the film, and it
worked.
Made me so happy.
Yeah.
It made me so fucking happy. It's so great.
Well, we're running a little bit long because like there were 6 things that we had to talk about. Good thing I'm not editing this.
Yeah, I know. Jesus Christ. Anyways, it's great. So I think it's unanimous that this film is pretty fucking
the final
great.
thoughts, go watch it. It was pretty fun. Now,
Oh, yeah.
Jared, I have an assignment for us. I watched this movie while pretty drunk, but it's worth a second watch for me, only because it was, even while I was drunk, I was like saying, what the fuck? Now, it is a shitty movie.
Okay. All right.
Like in terms of low production value, and it kind of takes a while to get to where it goes to, essentially. And
Well, what is it called?
the camera is like it's basically
Oh, God damn.
I'm sorry. It's called Mind Warp. Mind Warp.
I like the title.
1992. It has the you remember that one Mystery Science Theater episode with that one 1990s TV series that was kind of like Casablanca, overdrawn to the memory bank?
Uh-huh.
It has that quality camera, basically.
Oh, this looks fun.
It's, oh my god. Well, wait, you're looking at the stills? Oh, you shouldn't have looked at the stills.
Oh, okay, I won't.
Yeah, because the stills are what blew my, like, it just took me right out of where it was. So in post-apocalyptic 2037, Judy rebels against the AI-ruled utopia where people live in happy VR simulation.
Oh.
She's
just
exiled.
like The Matrix.
Yeah, kind of. She's exiled to a post-nuclear wasteland where she meets a drifter, Stover. The drifter is played by Bruce Campbell. Mutated.
Bruce Campbell?
Yeah.
You said it weird.
Campbell, excuse me. Bruce Campbell. Mutated cannibals capture them for their leader, Seer. And there's, oh my god. I know everything about the film, and once you see Seer, you're going to be like, what the fuck is going on? And then there's so many implications that go on with Seer. Oh, it's so good. So we're gonna watch that. I'm stoked to watch it again because I want to take notes on it because that's all I can think about. I'm like, this would be the perfect film for the podcast.
The first review says, if you can stand the gore, Mind Warp is sci-fi fun.
It does get pretty gruesome. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, that's pretty good. Awesome. I'm fucking super down for this movie. This seems really fun. I can't wait.
Just let the first 5 to 10 minutes go, and then you're gonna get out of the VR simulation because the VR simulation is kind of like confined to one room, basically. But then once you get out into the world, it's like, where the fuck are they filming this right now?
So you're saying it's very linear, but once you get to the open world portion of the game, it really picks
yeah,
up.
of course.
Once you get out of that snow level.
Yeah.
God damn, baby girl. Well, guys, shit. It looks like we've come to the end of our episode. I reckon we have to get on our little horsies and ride off into the sunset. But first, I hope this was something. And please find us where you're going to find us. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes if you so choose. We're on podbean.com at Old Boys Podcast. We're also on Twitter and other things. You may find us if you wish. Dan, you have the final motherfucking word.
Yeehaw.